Hey guys, I hope you're doing well. I was requested to do videos more frequently, so I'm trying very hard. Sometimes it's difficult for me to know what is of interest to you, so please let me know. But I thought I'd do a very basic video, just the things that you should pay attention to in recovery, like what even is recovery and how to get through it. Okay, so starting off, when do you know that you need recovery? I think, in my opinion, as soon as you search up recovery, you need it because if you were 100% normal, you wouldn't even think about it. So your ED doesn't have to be in a certain way, like you don't have to have clinical anorexia in order to deserve recovery. You simply have to have a non-normal relationship to food, and yeah, that's enough for you to wanting to do recovery. Of course, there's these typical symptoms that, for example, I also experienced, like losing your period or being in a very bad mood all the time, being very cold, being super anxious. Things like that are very typical things for people to have in EDs. But as soon as you get too anxious or too worried about certain food things or exercise things, you can consider your eating behavior as disordered, and you can totally do recovery because recovery is just a way to find a very normal, healthy, happy life instead of being worried all the time. So how do you start recovery? Well, there's different approaches, and I followed a very extreme approach by Tabitha Farrar, but there's also other approaches, like for example Maxi Recovery on YouTube. She did a more subtle approach. So the more extreme one is you decide I'm going all in, and please do not look up Stephanie Buttermore and her all-in approach because I'm very sure she is still disordered because I don't know, even her recovery, she still ate these protein oats and she did exercise every day. So for me that was not a recovery. She did something different but not normal recovery. So please don't take her as an example. Instead, if you want to go all in, me personally, I like extremes. So for me, the Tabitha Farrar approach really worked. You just have to start and you have to 100% trust your mental hunger and eat the whole day. And huge portions, and really the goal was to eat as high calorie as possible. If you had the option between two meals and you knew one was more calorie intense, you had to take the more calorie intense one. But usually that's also what you crave, because after being starved for so long, obviously your body wants to get all of the energy as easy as possible. And you can imagine what is easier to digest, like a kilogram of spinach or some bread. Obviously the bread. So you have to opt for the high calorie options. And also very important that you incorporate all types of foods. So I was a vegetarian for 3.5 years before my ED, in my ED, and after my ED. And then during recovery, at some point I started craving meat again, and it was very much against my moral, but I just had to eat meat again, and I think it really helped me to recover because you just ideally eat all types of foods. And if you really cannot get yourself to eat meat, at least eat milk and dairy, just something with animal fat, because she says it's very important, and I believe her because everything she's been saying worked out for me. So yeah. So what you do is, as I said, you follow your mental hunger, and mental hunger is everything. Really, I think she says, like, whenever you think about food, exercise, cooking, everything is mental hunger. So for example, if you think like, oh, I should go on a walk after, which is your typical like compensation thing, this is mental hunger. This just means, in her opinion, and I agree with her, that you should simply eat. If you think about like compensating, binging, restricting everything, it means you should eat. So yeah. But then the typical mental hunger is just like, imagine you're sitting there, which happened a lot in recovery, obviously, because your body is starving. You're like trying to do some schoolwork and your mind keeps creeping back to some type of food. That means you need to eat that food. There's no excuse, and you will find a lot of excuses like, oh, but I've already eaten breakfast and it's not lunch yet. Who cares? Like, eating 5 snacks in the morning between these 2 meals is fantastic. And you should just allow yourself to eat as much as possible. And yeah, in more detail, what she recommends is that you eat 3 meals and 3 snacks at least. And then on top of that, whatever you crave more. So 3 meals are not like your ED meals. No, they are, as she says, like a meal that you would get in a pub, like a big ass plate full of really oily or whatever food. That's a meal. And then your snack should be like also a normal meal. So you should essentially eat 6 meals a day. And then on top of that, like dessert, everything. Like just eat a lot. And then another very important thing is don't move except for like, the essentials, but try to move as little as possible. And this is very difficult because most people with EDs have kind of like I forgot the word, but like this constant urge to move and like this nearly OCD type of behavior. But you have to really be very, very, very disciplined in a way of stopping exercise. And it's extremely difficult. Like, I'm not acting like it isn't. It took me a long, long time. Like, it took me way over a year to really get to a point where I could be at peace with stopping these behaviors. So I'm not saying it's an easy process at all. Like, it cost me a lot of nerves. But I'm just saying, like, it's very worth it. And you have to completely act against what you've been acting for during your whole ED. You have to act against what society tells you is like healthy for you, blah blah blah. You just have to blend it out and focus on what recovery is. You also have to remember that like recovery is not a representation of what your life is gonna look like after recovery. Recovery is really a special state in which you cannot do exercise and you have to constantly eat, because it's like your body has been so drained during your ED. Like there's no energy left. Actually, there's like this imbalance where normally you have this level of energy. Let's say you live normally, you move normally, but then during your ED you eat less than you should and you move more. So your energy over time, it just became lower and lower, and your body couldn't repair certain parts and blah blah blah. Like it's just like in a debt situation. So now recovery, the goal is to get the energy up as quickly as possible. But like, of course, first of all, it needs to maintain the energy, which already costs a lot of energy at this level. But then also it has to increase, which is very difficult because it has to like repair all of these things that it couldn't because you were in such an energy debt during your recovery, as well as additional energy. Like this costs a lot of food, and so if you would move during the time of recovery, you would have to eat even more, and it's just more complicated and more difficult for your body to handle. So you just really need to see like a hospital recovery where you just lay down, you give your energy the resources, your body your resources, which is the energy, via food or soda or whatever, just energy, so that it can really recover everything. And then what happens is it will gain more weight than your like set point weight. So as I said, your energy level normally, this is also more or less like your weight range. But then during your ED, you obviously dropped weight and your energy levels are lower. And then during your recovery, you will gain a lot of weight very, very quickly. Don't be surprised. You will gain very quickly if you do it right. And that's a great thing. And you will gain more than your set point weight is. Why is that? It's because your body is scared that another famine will come, like that it will be starved again. So what does it do? It gains weight on top just to protect itself. And additionally, if I remember correctly, I'm not that much into the topic anymore because I'm like not too invested in recovery anymore because I'm like now thinking about other things. I'm still interested, but yeah. On top of the being scared that another starvation will come, it also needs like this protective layer of fat in order to repair everything inside. And then over time, like let's say half a year to a year, at least that's what happened to me, like as soon as I hit that plateau of my highest weight, which was way higher than my pre-ED weight, I stayed at the weight for like 6 months. And then I slowly started losing the weight again. Because my body realized, you know what, that girl, she is not starving anymore. She's eating a lot. And maybe it hasn't tested me, but sometimes it felt like my body tested me because I would just have days where I was so hungry I would only eat chocolate. It still happens to me. And like my ED me would have been so scared. Oh my god, I'm gonna gain so much weight. But nowadays I have so much trust in my body. I'm like, if it craves this and that, I'm gonna eat this and that. No questions asked. So yeah, over the time your body will trust you again, and it will trust. It's not even that it trusts you, it will not think that the environment is bad and it won't be enough food anymore. No, it actually trusts you, and so this protective layer of fat or whatever, it will disappear, and your body will go to the set point weight, which is like the weight it runs optimally at. I mean, us women, we usually have some more fat than men, simply because we have like different challenges in life and we have this hormonal cycle, blah blah blah. But still, like a huge layer of fat makes it just difficult for people to survive. But then again, it's so different with everyone. Like everyone has different genetics. But I'm saying that if you really follow through recovery, you will have a super hard time gaining weight. Like mentally, it's gonna be easy to gain weight because you are so hungry after your ED that it will be easy for you to eat a lot of food. But it will be very difficult to tolerate it with your mind. So you have to always, always look forward and see your goal, which is not looking a certain way. It's simply being happy and carefree. So throughout all of the struggles, you will gain a huge amount of weight. You will have like night sweats. You will be very anxious to meet certain people. You will be anxious to eat more than your friends, or to, I don't know, like not go on a walk or run. Like all of these things are so difficult, so scary, but you will grow like very, very, very much. And yeah, in the end, it's about having a very, very, how do I say, like strong mind to get through recovery, especially if you're doing it alone like me. It's extremely difficult, but if you have your end goal in mind and you just try to plan out everyone, you're like, I know in 2.5 years it's gonna be the best life ever, especially compared to now. So these 2 years are worth it. Like you kind of like sacrifice 2 years for then having 30-50 years of a great life where you never have to worry about food anymore. And that's definitely worth it, in my opinion. And you will realize that it's worth it when you get towards the end of your recovery. But it takes a lot, I'm warning you. So don't be like, oh my god, I'm such a snowflake. Like, for me, it's so much harder than for everyone else. No, it's not. It's just that you need to learn how to tolerate it and how to like see the end goal. So yeah, that was like the first type of approach, to go like all in. And I think I'm gonna make another video on like the second approach, but very quickly. If it's too difficult for you to just try all in, you can also start by doing also 3 meals, 3 snacks a day. Maxi did it too. But she kind of like started challenging herself like with new foods every week or every month, to like incorporate more and more things. And she didn't do it all at once, because for a lot of people I think it can get too much if you do it all at once. So maybe doing it in steps is a little bit easier. But yeah, that was like some tips or whatever about how to start and keep on doing recovery. Bye.